Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and today I'm back with another 4K review for one of my favorite movies of all time, and one of the movies I've been most looking forward to checking out on 4K. We're going to dive into John Carpenter's The Thing, released here on 4K from Universal Pictures. I grabbed this from Bull Moose actually because it has been hard to find this title. Review copies were not available. They were not sent out. It was hard to find it on Amazon, was back ordered. I couldn't find it in a Best Buy store when I went. Luckily, Bull Moose hooked it up, but I have it here finally, and I'm checking it out in this 4K review for you all. We're going to dive into video, audio quality, packaging, special features, and we're going to compare it to some past releases like my Scream Factory Blu-ray from a few years back and the 4K mastered Blu-ray that Scream Factory put out on a Steelbook version just a couple years back. So really quickly, because I love this movie, if you like practical effects, 80s horror, Kurt Russell, any of those things, you're gonna love The Thing. So if you haven't seen this, it's one of the best horror creature movies of all time. It's actually a remake of an earlier movie. So the newer remake from like 2010 was a remake of this, and this is actually a remake of an older movie from the 50s. But this is really what I would call the best version. This is John Carpenter at his best. The score is excellent, Kurt Russell is amazing, and the story is awesome, and the practical effects are still some of the best of all time. It's not super horror, it's horror, sci-fi, thriller, mixed all in between. So if you're into that thing, you're gonna love this thing, The Thing, on 4K. So jumping right into the visuals, this is a 4K master that I'm having a hard time figuring out where it's from. Now, my guess is that it is from the 4K master that was done just a couple of years ago, based on where I'm seeing comparisons to that master in this disc. That's my best guess. So I don't think it's a brand new remaster, and nothing from any of the press releases or anything told me that it was. So I think they're reusing that, but putting it onto a 4K disc in full 4K resolution with HDR for the first time. So the visuals here are very, very solid. It is an excellent, excellent looking movie. And my initial comparison was against this Scream Factory Blu-ray, because when that came out, I was actually doing written reviews for a website, and I remember reviewing it and saying this is one of the best Blu-rays I've seen. And at the time it was. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that, Shout Factory did an amazing job. But this 4K release blows that one away. Just colors, way different. I like the color grading on this 4K master much better than the Shout Factory one. The colors on the Shout Factory one now seem very dull in comparison. The detail of this 4K transfer versus the 2K transfer that was done for the Scream Factory Blu-ray, huge difference, much more detailed, and you can really see in some close-ups where, just having that 4K resolution and a 4K scan makes a world of difference when it comes to these older movies shot on film. Again, has a nice grain structure, but 4K really resolves well with grain, and they don't overdo it. So I thought it looked great. I really did, especially compared to the Scream Factory Blu-ray, which I was doing a head-to-head on first. But then I realized there was actually this other 4K master that Scream Factory and some others internationally put out in a steelbook form. And when you're comparing this disc to that 4K master, this is why I think they're the same master, because they look very, very, very similar in terms of color grading. Now you can tell on this 4K disc the HDR adds a tiny bit extra pop. One of the scenes I liked to look at was this explosion, which I'm going to put on the screen here. If you flip back and forth between the 4K and the 4K mastered Blu-ray, you can tell that these are much different than the Scream Factory Blu-ray in that color grading. So it's clearly the transfer, I think, that they used for this disc. And that 4K mastered Blu-ray is really, really good. I have to give them credit. Really, really good. Now, you're going to get a small uptick in quality on this 4K disc, and you're definitely getting better color and better highlights with HDR. Also better black levels, I thought, less crushing blacks, less issues with kind of cloudiness in your blacks. That's all the benefit of 4K. But if you do have that 4K mastered Blu-ray, it's going to be a hard sell. That one's really, really good. Honestly, you could probably stick with that, but this 4K disc from Universal is by far the best that the movie's ever looked, and will be the most definitive home theater version, high quality version if you're an enthusiast and want to have that in your collection. So I'd recommend it from a visual standpoint. Now, the other nice thing this adds from audio is a DTS-X soundtrack. Universal seems to be doing a lot of DTS-X instead of Dolby Atmos. I don't mind because my system can resolve either one, and I kind of like DTS-X sometimes instead of Atmos. Sometimes I think DTS-X is a little bit more dynamic. Atmos is a little bit more marketing in some cases, you know, it's a little bit gimmicky, and the marketing of Dolby really kind of overshadows the actual performance of Atmos, and I really like what DTS-X does. So this is an upgrade from a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, so we love that. We're getting upgraded visuals, 4K quality, HDR, as well as that upgraded high-end DTS-X audio, and I thought the audio was excellent. As always, the score from John Carpenter sounds incredible. Sound effects are moving all around the soundscape, which is amazing because it's an older movie. Clearly had to do some, you know, restoration work to get that to happen. There's a few highlights, there's a few, you know, big moments, although the score really is what sold me the most on the audio. Dialogue remains clear, your surrounds are still going to be in full use. Your height speakers, they get a little bit of use. There isn't so much of a height element to this movie. Some of the scenes with the helicopters at the beginning and a few of the explosions, like that builds some height to the soundscape, but honestly it's kind of a claustrophobic movie, so a lot of the sound kind of takes place in a more central location, but I thought bass was very good as well. It's a really nice soundtrack. It's what you'd expect from DTS-X. It's what you'd expect from a John Carpenter scored movie, and I really enjoyed the experience. Now, packaging here, you get a standard slipcover with sort of what is usually the theatrical artwork. Would have loved to see them do something like Scream Factory did. This artwork, in my opinion, is awesome. I actually have this poster signed by John Carpenter. It's hanging up in the movie room. So I would have loved to see something a little bit more interesting, but you know, they stuck with the basics, stuck with the regular artwork. And then on the inside, flipping this open, I believe that this is an old Blu-ray release. I'm not even sure if this is the one that Scream Factory did. To me, it looked like an older Blu-ray, and then the 4K disc. There also is a digital copy, so you get that included as well. And then special features, they include John Carpenter's The Thing, Terror Takes Shape, which is a little featurette. There's some outtakes, and then there's a feature commentary with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, as well as the theatrical trailer. Now, that's not as many special features as a disc like this, and that's where maybe if you're a hardcore fan of the movie, maybe you want to have both a Scream Factory and the 4K disc, because this has new interviews with the cast and crew. It had a documentary, the Thing, Terror Takes Shape, but it has the making of The Thing. It has the network TV broadcast version. It has 3 vintage featurettes. It has a vintage product reel with alternate footage, behind the scenes footage, production archives, production arts, location scouting. It just has a lot more that goes into it, and it does have the commentary and the documentary that this release carries over, but just a little bit extra. So if you're looking for those special features, this isn't really a huge package for that. Overall, though, I am really impressed with Universal and this release. You know, I think that most of this came down to really the way that they transferred to disc and their mastering of this disc and how they handled compression and things like that, because the transfer was done. The transfer has been done on 4K, and I do believe it's the same one, but Universal didn't screw anything up here. And that's good. You don't want to screw anything up. So they made a good disc. They did well with the 4K transfer, moving it to the 4K format, moving it to HDR color grading. Everything looked good, and they didn't overdo it. It's a very, very solid 4K disc. It is, I believe, the best that this movie's ever looked. And if that's what you're in the market for, certainly it's worth an upgrade. I absolutely loved watching this on 4K. The only caveat I will give is that a lot of collectors like myself do want those special features or additional packaging elements, things like that. And in that case, that's why you may be better off grabbing this or keeping this in your collection, because I am going to keep this for the special features and packaging, and also have this 4K disc for when I actually want to watch the movie. I'm a crazy collector. Not everyone needs to do that, but if you get that 4K mastered Blu-ray, that could be another option as well, where you could still get a lot of great special features and some unique packaging. So I'll leave a link to The Thing on 4K down in the description if you pick that up through my link. that helps support my channel, so I would appreciate that. Want to shout out Bull Moose for actually having a copy of this in stock. So if you can't find it through my link, check out Bull Moose. They may have some copies and get them to you in stock, because they've been hard to find, at least in the first couple days of release. So props to Bull Moose for getting a quantity in and continuing to support physical media. But yeah, that's about it for the review. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I loved watching this. This movie is incredible. Highly recommend you watching it on any format if you've never seen it. But if you want to experience it the best way for the first time, you really can't go wrong with this 4K disc. It's awesome. So definitely worth picking up, definitely worth upgrading your collection. But just keep in mind, you may want to keep some of those older releases for the features. So that's it. Make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on. Check out all my links for social media and ways you can follow me, as well as all the other links in my description for ways you can support the channel. I really appreciate it. We've almost been hitting our goal, subscriber goal, every month. We're trying to hit 100,000 sometime this year, maybe next year. That's the ultimate goal, is to hit 100,000. So help us get there, subscribe. But other than that, hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Really enjoyed making this, so hopefully you enjoyed watching. Had a lot of fun doing the comparisons as well. It's a very interesting release with all the different versions. So hopefully that covered everything for you, but hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you soon.